Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It's July the 19th of 2023. Hooray! It's Nick, it's Quinn, it's Manga Talkie time. Aren't you all happy to hear that?
Yeah. It's gonna be a good day. I can feel it. I didn't poop myself. I was telling Nick a story earlier that it almost happened, but I didn't. So I'm gonna ride these vibes.
Guys, you might think that not pooping yourself is kind of one of those things where it's like, well, that doesn't seem like cause for celebration. I was like, I mean, yeah, good, you did, but I mean, like, it's like, no. With the context, yes, it is indeed accomplishment to be celebrated. So
yeah, I've never felt stronger. We have a lot of manga to talk about. Although not as many irregular series. Just Chainsaw Man with a dick grabbing chapter this week. I mean that without knowing the context of the chapter.
Yeah,
I'll read it along with you for the first time.
For the first time, as we always do. We go into this always blind every series.
Yeah.
Don't you know?
What was the series we used to read blind? I know we did it with Eden Zero or Fairy Tail a couple times. Wasn't there a series we would just read blind sometimes?
We did.
It must have been Fairy Tail and maybe Seven Deadly Sins, because those have been the only things that weren't in like regular One Piece, I think. Maybe. Or not One Piece, Shonen Jump. Holy shit.
Regular Jump, right? And we I think that we did have to do that kind of on the regular because of the release schedule.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were definitely quite a few Fairy Tail ones where we were at blind, but also there were some that people just said like, guys, can you just read this blind?
Yeah, can you just experience this for the first time with us? Please.
And it was definitely because of good chapters. Yeah, but I guess we'll get into it. We got a chapter of My Hero Academia this week. It's 394, which is, I believe, celebrating 9 years of My Hero Academia.
I was gonna say, is this particular, like, everyone's wearing like a very similar outfit? Is this supposed to be anything, or is just they're all just color coordinating?
Yeah, they're all of Class 1A is wearing color coordinated these dark green uniforms, all different kinds of uniforms too. And it's interesting as well to see it because
except for Shoto. Shoto was like, I'm gonna be that one motherfucker who's gonna show up in a tan suit. Don't worry, guys, the green will be there on the time. You're like, you fucking asshole.
You can't pinch me. I'm technically wearing green.
I don't like this.
This isn't in the spirit of this. You did the minimum amount of effort possible. There's a couple of weird observations I have about this because there's a couple of people in this that don't look like they normally do. First of all, Hagakure is visible.
After revealed she's a cute anime girl, Nick, you gotta take advantage of that. You gotta put that out there.
Horikoshi's like, I've drawn disembodied clothing so many times. Now I get to draw a cute face in a skirt. So, but also, I guess that he wanted to kind of represent the new designs for Shoto and Koda because Koda looks really weird. It took me a while to realize what was going on, and I guess it's because he kind of got a form change thing, which was something that I really, really did not care for because I don't really care about Koda when the whole thing happened. But yeah. Also, that Ida's making a really weird face.
Yeah, that's like a weird little corner. Ida's got a weird face, and Choji's kind of like he just rolled into this fucking super stoned. He's like, hey, what's going on?
Also, All Might, I guess, is he didn't get the memo that they were posing in this corner. He decided to go pose in that corner over there.
He's like, guys, you got to turn around or you're going to miss the picture. Hey, stupids.
Just the wrong confidence. But it's a nice picture, like all the colors and stuff in it. So
Yeah, good for them. It's a good thing.
All right.
What happened in this chapter? Oh yeah.
This
Okay, now I get it. I'm back. We're with it now.
Chapter 394, Ochaku Uraraka versus Himiko Toga. Uraraka in the last chapter, her zero gravity power evolved so that her flotation ability can now spread between objects that she doesn't necessarily directly touch. And so it's caused the massive swarm of people, including lots and lots and lots of Toga's twice clones, to float up in the air where they can't hurt people. And Toga realized, like, oh, this is like how my quirk suddenly changed, and I could use other people's quirks that one time. There is also, amusing enough, like some actual collateral to this, where even Uraraka's allies are floating hopelessly into the air. They kind of have to cling onto the ground and stuff. But meanwhile, Uraraka has still been stabbed in the stomach and is still bleeding a lot. To the point that she
you don't need all that blood. Similar to the story I told Nick, sometimes you can lose a little bit of blood and you almost poop yourself, and it's fine because you don't.
Yeah, so as long as Uraraka doesn't poop herself, everything's good.
That's the measure of whether or not she succeeds as a hero. It doesn't actually matter what happens with Toga. It's after the end of this, somebody's like, "Did you poop yourself?" And she's like, "We're all good." And then they're like, "A hero too. You can be a
Did not shit myself.
My pants are clean.
Didn't do number 2.
I think we should write this remix right now.
Nope. It's already written. It's all in our heads. We don't need to write it down.
Oh, that's perfect then.
Yeah, we don't need to prove to people that we can write it because,
we already have it in our hearts.
That's right.
Oh, I love it.
And that's why I don't want to do it. It's not for any other reason. Uraraka realizes, like, oh, I'm in trouble, but what matters right now is that I want to reach out and touch Faith. And she uses her grappling hook extension thing to grapple Toga's arm and kind of just link them together while they both float through the air. And she basically starts countering the whole thing that Toga was saying in the previous chapter, which is, you've never had a hard life. You've never been called a freak because you wanted to suck other people's blood. And Uraraka, explains, like, hey, my family's, poor. And my folks were always really sad looking. So I wanted to be a hero so that I could make their lives easier. And then I realized that the world is full of people who are different from them. Not just my parents, not just people in my home. And then I fell in love with Izuku Midoriya, which is, I believe, the first time she has admitted that out loud. And she's like, and that's all who I am. I'm my parents' daughter. I'm in love with Izuku. I'm a hero, or I'm trying to be, and that's why I'm here right now. And she manages to. Well, she doesn't manage to. Toga kind of snaps around and attacks Uraraka some more with her knife. But Uraraka just keeps on going, like, look, just tell me what's on your mind. Tell me your thoughts and your feelings. And Toga is thinking about a lot of stuff because she's led a very chaotic life up to now, and there's a lot of different interlinking moments that have all led into this. And this is all kind of comes into an illustration of this moment, which is Uraraka as a little girl reaching out to Toga, offering her arm for some blood. And Toga is a big scary monster made of tendons and stuff, but also holding a knife. Also with big hanging boobs.
Wait, what?
She's got big hanging boobs.
Oh, yeah. Those are muscles, Nick. I don't think
they are muscles.
Yeah.
They're made of tendons. Yeah. Therefore, not boobs.
Those boobs be lifting.
They're just her awesome pecs.
She's doing boob squats, Nick. You got a problem with that? Sometimes you look good for yourself. It's not for other people.
I didn't. Boob squats.
I don't know what to tell you, Nick. Sometimes you can look good, and it's not for the rest of the world to really put their eyes into it. Just for yourself. She doesn't need your validation. This is the most misogynistic thing since whatever you said during fucking Parasite or whatever that got us an angry email.
Okay. So, Toga reacts to all this, and she pauses stabbing Uraka, and she admits that she falls in love really easily with not just, like, animals, but also villains and heroes and boys and girls, which is like, all right, yeah, bye, Icon Toga, sure. And she says, and they've all got such amazing blood pumping through them. This is a great example of a bisexual character. There's nothing problematic about this. What are you talking about?
Yeah, there's something weird about her being like, yeah, with boys, girls, or animals, whatever, really. Like, all right,
yeah,
hold on.
Nothing problematic about this. Or about the fact that she's got muscle boobs. Come on. So
okay, well, now I feel like you do have an issue with the muscle boobs. At first, it was a joke.
Don't!
You keep pointing it out now. Nick, are you intimidated by big women? Does Marissa from Street Fighter 6 scare you? She's very big, and she has a lot of armor-piercing attacks. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Sounds like she's got her life together. So.
There you go. All right, now you're on board. Now you're on board with the gang.
So, she says, I fall in love with all these really easily because they've all got such amazing blood pumping through them. And Uraka, good job. She just goes, mm-hmm. He's like, I'm listening. Go on. Very good. No negative reaction. Mm-hmm. And Toga, says how people would always say, like, you got to stop grinning, and I get jealous. And Izuku, he reminds me of a boy that I used to like named Saito. But it's not like I could just ask him for his blood, because then he'd call me a freak or something. And then you'd think I wasn't cute. And she thinks that Izuku and Uraraka would be the same way.
Can we comment on... I don't know if this is supposed to be Izuku or this is supposed to be the Saito person.
It's Saito, I believe.
His great shirt says Sometimes Tuesday.
I don't know what this is about.
It's in reference to...
the cover page.
the one on the Shonen Jump website.
Right.
Where everyone's wearing a shirt that says every Monday, because that's when the magazine releases every Monday in Japan.
Is that just it?
And then he has a shirt that's like, sometimes it's Tuesday, though. Because it is sometimes Tuesday. Every so often we'll get chapters on like a Monday or something like that.
That's such a weird little... Just like, I'm going to hide my comment on your release schedule in here somewhere.
It's great, too, because like you can only do every Monday for so many characters before it gets boring. So you get characters like Icehead Gil, who I don't even know if it says. Every Monday, it's just like a bunch of diamonds, and then it looks like there might be something in the last one. I don't know. Luffy says a shark. It's good shit.
Hang on, let me see if I can find Iroha real quick. Iroha has this hidden, so we... I was gonna be like, what's the code that says every Monday on him?
None. You have to figure it out from everyone else's shirt. There's a small clue in every other shirt.
But yeah, so Toga says, like, it would just, if I were to try and do that, then he would, like, lecture me and stuff just like you guys do all the time, and that's why I joined the League of Villains, because with them, I could live and love how I needed to. And she goes to stab Uraraka, but she just puts her knife over her shoulder. She doesn't attack her anymore. And, so, yeah, she admits, like, it took me a while to just notice it. And as she kind of just pauses in this moment, Jin's power fades from her because she used all of her time with his blood up. So she can't call on his power anymore. And there is a sad little moment of like all the Jin clones fade away because it's like, well, yeah, that's like the last trace of him. He's just completely gone now. It's very important that we check to make sure that Jiro made it, and she did. She's fine. So, yep. She's the only one that mattered. Yep. All those other people that float up in the air who couldn't fall into their deaths don't matter. She's fine. So, and Uraraka wraps up Toga in a hug, and she says, like, look, I think there's something really amazing about someone who is all ragged but tries their darndest anyway, and maybe I'm not a replacement for the League, but I want you to know that I think your smile is really special. And Toga is just completely overwhelmed by emotions, and she smiles a big, really, 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 like, sharp tooth, fangy smile, and she asks Uraraka, am I cute? And Uraraka says, the cutest in the whole world.
Aww.
Aw. And the clouds fade? The gene clones
Yeah, I was gonna
fade?
say that's the clones she's made all disappearing, I think, at the same time.
Which I think is actually the biggest sign of like just how many of them there were,
Yeah.
because like there's so much of them.
Yeah, it was insane how many of them there were.
So that's our chapter. Uraraka defeats Toga not by using her martial arts and punch her in the face, not by floating her into the sky and killing her or something like that. It's like, no, she just, connected with her heart to heart and saved her.
Now, I want to ask you, Nick, first, what you felt about this, because you had some strong words last week.
I mean, look. Independent of context, I do think that this is a nice moment. And I don't actually, not even independent of context. I think that in isolation from every other ongoing storyline that was running through this series, this is a pretty nice way of concluding this villain story arc with Toga, which had always been built on like, not like, oh, she is, we need to take her down. It's like, no, we need to like stop her by understanding her, kind of thing. The same way that Deku was trying to do that with Shigaraki, but that's been complicated by, all the other stuff involved with him. So that's fine. Within context of everything else going on, it is still very weird to see like, okay, the one plot thread going on in this massive conflict that involves a female character going up against another female character concludes with them talking about their emotions, and that's just kind of it. And it is weird that this is like the big moment that Uraraka has, which is, again, it fits with the whole thing of like Uraraka is supposed to be a rescue hero. She's not supposed to be the type of person who, has ultimate powers and, destroys people. She is trying to rescue people, and in this sense, she rescues everyone by also focusing on saving Toga. And so that's, that makes sense. It's just that she hasn't done anything else really up to this point. And so it feels like a build up to this moment from her side of things didn't quite meet that level of how important this is for the consequence it's going to have for the amount of time that was spent building Toga up and leading up to this moment. So it is something where if you look at it from one perspective, it's nice, but when you look at it from another perspective, it's disappointing. I can see people being really happy with this, but also being very disappointed by it. And I'm somewhere in the middle.
Okay. I think I generally agree with what you're saying. I like this chapter. I think it's cool. I think it's one of the things I think I really appreciate about it is like Uraraka looks fucked up by the end of this. Usually there's a thing to like, if you're going to have like females fight each other, to make sure they really look really cute during it. And they don't. Right. Like Uraraka has, I don't know if it's supposed to be blood or dirt, but like it's smeared all across her face. Like she doesn't look good. We've cut multiple times to like this gaping knife wound in her abdomen where she's just been bleeding from. And I do appreciate that. Like it looks like she's been through hell. There's not like a sense of trying to make her feel like a doll that needs to be protected or look good or anything like that.
There's not lingering shots on the two characters' muscle boobs or anything like that.
Yeah, only the one. But I will say that I think, yeah, you're right in that I think the biggest takeaway I shouldn't say takeaway, but like the biggest thought I had kind of from this was like, damn, I wish we could have had more Uraraka throughout this whole series, where I think the other characters who are kind of our leads got kind of well-defined, like frequent appearances throughout the whole manga. I do feel like she kind of disappeared outside of, like, she never completely vanished, but like it was always like in the sidelines or very small moments. And maybe this is just me. I'm not that attentive of a person in like a long, grand, scanty thing unless like they've made like a point to like sort of showcase it. So like it's tough to grasp Uraraka's character at times and like all of her motivations and everything like that. So there is a level of that. Like I just wish I knew a bit more about Uraraka and this sort of stuff. But I'm glad she got something. I think they're making a strong effort to be like, heroes should not always beat up their opponent. It also seemed to be the case with Toby as well. Or not Toby, Dobby.
Right.
That the idea was like, Shoto showed up and didn't like punch him in the face really hard. He just kind of stopped the nuclear explosion his brother was going to create from going off. And
yeah, I mean, he tried to do the punching really hard before, and it was just like, man, this guy just keeps on blowing himself up whenever I punch him.
Yeah, this sucks. So there's a couple things there, but I think by and large, I still enjoyed this chapter. I don't think it's gonna be like my favorite conclusion of any of the ones that we've seen here, but I am still very glad that we did get a conclusion for Toga that feels nice, and that Uraraka got to be present as like a major element of the story in some way at the end.
True.
All right, Nick, are you ready?
Yeah, let's unlock some undeads. Yeah.
Whoa, we don't do that here. We undead some unlocks. It's a different thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ooh, I don't know what you're gonna do. That's illegal in
All
7
right.
states, Nick. Not in Florida, though. We all know it's not illegal there.
Yeah, I mean, as long as talking to gay people is not on the table, then it's fine in Florida. Anything else?
Yeah, it's confirmed so far. There's no queer people in Undead Unluck. Everyone was paired off very straightly, so you're allowed to talk about this series.
We had to make sure that we could keep on putting this in Florida schools. Obviously.
Hold on, is there a black character in this series?
It depends on how you interpret certain ones. I mean, Void's got some pretty dark skin, but
all right. Well, that one's up in the air. We'll see about that.
yeah, we'll see.
All right. Top's Brazilian. You got that.
Yeah. Well, you can't avoid talking about Hispanic people in Florida.
Okay. Let's talk about Undead Unluck number 167, Dumb Son. So we opened with a flashback from Fang.
What a title.
Yeah. Where Fang is just like, at first I got stronger in order to survive. I basically beat people up, and that was how I was fed, and I was simply content to feel that way, but that's only because I didn't realize how far I can go. And like cuts to like a martial arts master walking up and be like, you don't know how to properly use your skills. Violence is not the answer. Allow me to show you true strength at the form martial arts. Cut to Fang just having mercilessly beat him up. Fang just pummeled the shit out of him. He's like, holy shit, if I steal all of your techniques, I'll get even stronger. And
it's amusing in a couple of ways. First off, it's such a great play off of this trope of the master discovers the troublesome guy and shows him the way, and it's just like, no, he just keeps on beating people up. But also apparently in the streets, you just thought it was like, no, you see, if you form proper fists. It's like, why is that your first piece of advice to the violent man?
So the school teacher is like, no, if you misuse my school's teaching, then my master and other disciples will never let you rest. You will be challenged by them. And Fang's just like, sounds good. So we cut back to the present. It's Fang versus Shen. They're going to have their big fight. Fang is like, so you said you figured out what being the strongest means. Is that the truth? And Shen's like, oh, yeah, sure is. Oh, hey, by the way, Miss Fuko, will you take care of Bowie for me? And she's like, not on your life. And he's like, oh, is this about that untruth thing? She's like, yep, if I had said yes, I would have probably hurt Bowie really, really badly. So he's like, yeah, it happens whenever you're fond of somebody. So you have to be very careful. You have to make good use of it. And Shen just says that it won't matter for this match, because I hate this old man. And we cut back to the flashback. Fang has just trounced every martial arts tournament he's been in. He's just bragging. He's like, I've learned all of your techniques. From this day forward, I shall be known as the strongest of all creations. If anyone wants to challenge me, step in line, basically. He does like a heel promo.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's such a nice little thing. We'll talk a little bit more about just the structure of this chapter, but I love that the other masters just to be like, we're going to take it down no matter how long it takes, and he's just so happy to hear that.
Yeah, He's grinning when he hears them say that. He's like, yes, that's the spirit. And he announces, then until I grow old and fade away, I will await your challenges atop the throne of the strongest. And we finally get Fang's ability, Unfade. And I also like that he leaves by taking the evil cloud. This is the sinister one. He's like, I take this one.
In order to get on the Nimbus, you must have a pure heart. In order to be on this one, you've got to be the world's biggest dickbag.
You gotta just suck. You have to really boo.
Just occasionally, it's like, oh, I'm slipping. Hang on a second. Let's go beat up those toddlers down there. All right, back up the cloud. Whee!
Yeah, bump, 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 bump. Oh, we're gonna run out of gas. I better trip some elderly people. He notes that he's like, ever since that day, my body has ceased aging. So we cut over to Fuko, and Fang is just like, hey, I need to ask you something. So this negation ability or whatever that you mentioned, does it have something to do with my unaging body? And it looks like he's kind of beaten Shen at this point. Like, Shen's kind of down for the count. And Fuko's like, yeah, you're Unfade, the negator of aging. And Fang's just like, you said that tragedies usually accompany manifestations of negation abilities, but I never had one. Along my path of conquest, I've never had anything bring me sorrow. He's very cocky about this. He's like, nothing has ever been bad for me in my life, ever.
While he's continuing to beat up Shen too, yeah. Like he's following through with his most recent punch while just going like, nothing bad's ever happened to me though, so looks like your logic is shit.
We then get
on my way. Gotta kick that toddler so I can gas at my cloud.
I'm gonna buy this bakery out of all of its bagels and then throw them all in the trash before the work crowd can get to it. They're like, that's not really evil. He's like,
it's nice to give that bakery all that business, and then I'm going to burn the bakery down.
They're like, that's the ticket. It wasn't making sense until that point. Shen just says the subtext out loud. He's like, no, you've been into tragedy because of your aging. You've been fixed on your personal strength, and you've created endless, lonely pursuit of strength that has brought you nothing but misery. And he's like, no.
That doesn't sound very sad to me.
That doesn't sound... It sounds pretty cool, actually, to just, like, hang around stronger forever.
Boy, it sounds like you're describing a life that's awesome. Now, come over here so that I can stomp on your toes.
Shen's just like, no, you would always look listlessly into the distance. Look at me. I'm the man who's going to surpass you. Fang's kind of pauses for a moment. And he's like, yeah, it was thanks to Miss Fuko that you took on a disciple unnecessary for someone like you who doesn't age. I'm the only one who could change you. And Fang's like, all right, fine. Then try to surpass me right here, right now. And Shen's like, all right, cool. And he basically does the 9 gates thing. I don't know if this has ever been fully explained before, that they're like, there's 8 different principles to the Shinhakyo, but there's a 9th version, Apex. To channel that is to cut off a point. It's 9 gates. It's just straight up 9 gates. Like, his skin color even changes. He's using part of his life to get even stronger. And Fang's just like, only my unfading body is capable of withstanding that. You've done nothing more than take an advance on the life or the time you have here on Earth. Just like me, you have chosen individual strength. And Shen just says, I'm not going to die because I'm your disciple and you're my master. And Fang just like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Cut back to the flashback. Many years have passed since Fang first activated his Unfade ability, and he's complaining. He's won another tournament. He's beaten up like an old person, and he's just like, a mere 50 years, and you guys are all fucking out of it? Like, what happened? What happened to your fervor and your spirit? Why do you not cry? Why do you not boo me? And the one person is just like, nah, it's not that. It's just like, we've entrusted everything to the next generation. Like, we are staying here admiring these people who have come to surpass us. And Fang does not understand this. He is like, how can you stand there smiling when it's you who have lost? The strength of your disciples is not your own. Don't run from me. Don't just leave me behind. Don't leave me by myself. And suddenly you're like, oh.
It's actually really sad.
Yeah. My boy did experience a tragedy. So Shen finishes this by saying, just act like an old man and rejoice in your son's growth. Here are all the techniques I've learned from you. With the strength I've learned from everyone, I am going to surpass you. And he lands a clean shot on Fang, knocks him clean out of the arena, and Fang's like, all right, bitch, that was a good shot, but I'm about to fucking whoop you solid. Once I get back in that, why can't I get in the ring? And Shen's just like, it's Untruth or whatever, right? Like, I got you riled up for one attack, landed a good time, and I activate it. This works.
It's worth pointing out, it took me a couple pages of the fight before I realized this, but yeah, Shen fought the entire battle up to this point with his eyes closed so that he wouldn't activate Untruth until the point where he could clinch victory in it. And he wins in the true manner of all great fighters, by countout!
Everyone's a satisfying way of achieving victory. Fang basically is trying to get back into the arena. He can't because Untruth's activated. He's like, wait, you said you couldn't use that power on me. And he's like, oh, man, okay, you're such a fucking dope. That was an untrue, a lie, you dummy. I actually really do like you. And we get a reminder, it only works on people the user is fond of. And Fang just kind of has to sit there and watch as Shen is declared victor. And he says, not bad, my dumb son.
This is such a great little chapter. There is an art to doing the very, very short-term, here's the villain's backstory to make them more sympathetic thing. And sometimes, like, the villain's been made out as too much of a monster beforehand that it rings hollow. Sometimes it's like, well, no, that's not a very compelling reason for all that stuff. But in this particular instance, I think that this worked insanely well to expand upon Fang and who he is and all of this, the single-minded obsession that we have seen from him up to this point in both versions of him that we've seen. And it's such just a sweet little moment where he's like, don't run away from me, turning it to, don't leave me. It's like, he's been in denial over how lonely he's been for his entire life. And it's very sweet, and it's nice to have this combination of like, hey, a really cool action moment, but also just this very nice portrayal of this heartfelt bond between him and his adopted son.
Yeah.
And yeah, who knows, like, maybe this will make Fang stronger than he ever could have been before.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of good work done here, like creating this full picture for Fang, giving us like the full reveal of Unfade, because I don't think they ever revealed Fade. Like, we knew he was a Negator before, and it seemed to be connected to his age, but I don't think we knew specifically Unfade. And I do appreciate that we like how the backstory was structured as we kept kind of going in and out of it, and time is passing even throughout this thing. Him as a kid, him and something else. So there's a lot of really cool things that I thought they did with the structure of the chapter. And this was a great one. This is like a really excellent. I love how he goes from like, I never had a tragedy. You say tragedies always accompanies us, but I've always ruled. And then slowly cut to like him in the flashback being like, why is everybody leaving me behind? Why doesn't everybody want to be? You're super cool.
Why don't my playmates want to play anymore? All I do is beat the shit out of them. Isn't that fun for them?
Yeah. And it's a cool like addition to this whole thing. And I imagine we're gonna get probably another chapter as like kind of conclusion to all this, but like it's very sweet. I do love that his Shen's just like, I'm lying, you dope. I love you. You're my dad.
And I also like that as a last touch to this, like Shen in this chapter is also a badass. Mm-hmm. Like he beats Fang in this brief exchange with his eyes closed, and only then does he use his ability to actually get an advantage on him, which indicates that, yeah, he's also even stronger than he was before. So, very, very well done chapter overall.
Good stuff. Let's talk about a dick-grabbingly great chapter, Nick.
Oh my god. Chapter 136, The Chainsaw Man, Normal Life. Denji is just in, wow, boring lives suck mode. He's going to school just in making that face where like you can't even bother to close your mouth because everything sucks so much. And while he's walking around, he's also like wearing a Chainsaw Man t-shirt. And so the fun police come by, and so this guy says, "I'm on." It's problematic that you're wearing that, actually.
Yeah, I love these two motherfuckers who immediately just create an entire argument out of this shit.
He's just wearing
It is like, I've never seen Twitter like this. This is Twitter where it's just like, you're wearing a Chainsaw Man shirt. You realize that is dangerous, and actually you're supporting victimizers here.
Yeah, it's a form of victimization because Chainsaw Man's actually stealing credit for all of Asamitaka's accomplishments, I'll have you know. And then a blue Twitter user comes to us like, did I just hear you dissing Chainsaw Man? I actively search for Chainsaw Man's name 24 hours a day so I know how to respond to people like you who defame him.
It's the best. This dude literally just shows up and he's like, fuck you! And just starts punching Denji.
Yeah, for clarity here, the guy is talking trash on Denji, and one of the Chainsaw Man supporters comes up and punches Denji, the guy wearing a Chainsaw Man t-shirt.
It's so fucking funny.
So Denji gets in trouble for this because the teacher he has to see about it is an asshole. He's like, you're lucky I'm not suspending you. In my experience, kids without parents are quick to start fights. Like, fuck you, dude.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Apparently
although we do find out Denji did fuck that guy up afterwards, which I appreciate.
Denji apparently won the fight, which makes sense. Yoshida comes up to him immediately afterwards and is like, yeah, I heard you put the other guy in the hospital. And Denji's like, he lost one tooth. Which still, it's not fun. Yeah, so Yoshida's like, well, I guess even ordinary high schoolers get into fights. You would think that skipping school to hang out would also make us ordinary high schoolers? And it was like, yeah, Denji just want to fucking be in school, sure. They go to a movie theater, and oh man, look at that great movie with the giant squid.
This was so confusing to me at the start. I was like, what movie would this be? And then they explained, they're like, oh yeah, a devil got killed. Like, so there's a couple minutes ago, yeah.
No one is in the theater because everyone else evacuated.
I thought it was because he was watching Ruby Gilman. I should have gone with Flash. That's the one everyone knows. Everyone knows that one's bombing. Nick, can you rewind a couple seconds here? Talk about the theater being empty again.
Yeah, so the theater's abandoned because, you know, everyone's like, you know, evacuated and stuff. So
no, it's actually because he went to go see the Flash.
Ah,
ding! Hey. Boom! Yeah. Do. I'm sure people have made this joke before.
It's all right. We'll just have to see. We'll just get that scene where you like different actors are playing us, and so they'll be the ones to have made the line that bombed.
Yeah.
So Yoshida points out, like, hey, you know, like this devil showed up 32 minutes ago, and then 2 minutes later it was killed by the theater's devil hunters. So there's just like cleanup left to do right now. So, you know, you without Chainsaw Man around, problems get solved. You're not the protagonist of this movie. It's not like the world will end without you. It sounds like the world will end without him based on what we know about plans going on. So Denji doesn't have any response to this until Yoshida turns around and is like, oh, she made it here before the corpse collectors. And Yoshida stands up and is like, yeah, a girl in my class wants to have a date with you, so I set you two up. Bye! And but before Yoshida leaves, Denji says, is this what it's like to be normal? And Yoshida's like, yeah. And then he leaves. So the girl sits down next to Denji, And Denji, because he's in a room with someone who is not actively yelling at him, or with Yoshida, he says, "I'm sorry, but I'm just like really sad right now."
This is incredible character growth for Denji, because he is literally next to a girl who's like, "I want to date you," and his first thought's like, I'm actually kind of sad
Really
right now.
sad.
I had to set up boundaries, and actually I don't really want to hang out right now.
Yeah, and he's like, "Look, I don't think I'm gonna have much fun right now, and I don't know what to do with myself. So I don't know what I'm getting at. I just kind of want to be alone." So good. And he goes literally, "Blah," because the girl has leaned over and is touching Denji's crotch over his pants. And Denji's reaction is, "She's touching my wiener!"
It's another one. Like, I know Chainsaw Man is good at a lot of them, and honestly, I don't think there's a better like page flip this week than Fang going like, "I will be like, I'm gonna beat a bunch of people in the streets," and like a martial arts master going up, and be like, "I shall teach you all my
Violence is not the way. Oh, violence!
oh, you crushed me with violence." Like, that was the best page turn. But this is a pretty close second one of just flipping to be like, "She's touching my wiener," and you're like, "What a world! What a world we live in."
Denji in chapter 1. "Oh man, I just want to touch a girl's boobs." Denji in chapter 136. "She's touching my wiener!" Yeah. So the girl gives him a look, which I can only describe as down to clown. And Denji reacts incredibly well to this by making various non-word noises, and then concludes in his mind, "She's touching my wiener!" again.
It's the range of expressions. He has the absolute like negative amount of ridge you could possibly have in this situation. He has no chill over the fact that she's touching him there. He's losing his mind at every panel. He's just like, his tongue's fucking like hanging out and shit like that. I don't know why. Like, I know this is like this chapter and like this particular part has gotten some discourse, but I guess in my mind, I'm like, I don't think you're really supposed to take this like seriously or anything like that. Like, it's Denji just being like a big fucking weirdo. He doesn't know how to react to this.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can interpret the scene that's going on.
I mean, it also seems extraordinarily clear that she is like being. I should say she is being. That this was like a setup thing. That this is Yoshida being like, hey, you know, make Chainsaw be in a relationship enough with Denji that he forgets about wanting to be Chainsaw. Right, like, this is a setup arrangement, essentially.
There is at the very least some form of influence Yoshida is having over the situation, which is to take Denji's mind off things, whatever. So now, in any case, like, is this girl just like someone who's been told like, oh, she'll get a chance to sleep with Chainsaw Man? Maybe she's into it that way. Maybe she's being manipulated, whatever. But apparently there's a lot of people being like, how dare she molest Denji? And it's like, I don't know. She's a horny teenager who's probably been told that he wants to do it because Denji talks constantly about how he wants to have sex with girls. So, eh.
I mean, this is also a series that I feel like you have to ignore pretty large swaths of if this is something that bothers you. You're like, oh no, someone is being inappropriate with Denji in a sexual manner. Like, I mean, it's unfortunate.
Did we not read part 1? This happens to Denji a lot.
Yeah, this whole thing. I think what really sells is just reading it out loud is the very funny part. She's touching my wiener. She's touching my wiener. It's just such a great like sequence of expressions.
So, yeah.
Oh, this girl's dead, by the way. This girl's not surviving this story. Die. Yeah, I've already accepted that. They're gonna give a sad backstory or something like that, but she's done for. The moment she showed up, I was like, "You're gone. You're toast."
She's just like we get a flashback. It's like, I would always defeat anyone who stood in my path. None could stand against me, and my life ruled. And then I realized I was actually sad because I was never around anyone. All right. Let's move on. It's Akane-banashi.
No, it's Eden Zero, Nick.
Oh my god, you're right.
We can't possibly get through without talking about Eden Zero, chapter 248, the Yukino Cosmos. Or is it Yukino?
It's Yukino.
Yukino? Okay.
Yukino.
So they have shown up in the Yukino Cosmos, and guess what? It's all snow. They're all stunned by this, despite the fact that like every cosmos is like full of shit. But I guess you're like, hey, it's something different, or whatever. We get a big 2-page spread that shows off the Yukino Cosmos, which really just shows off that there's a bunch of snow because you can't really see anything else. There's a bunch of characters who are just like talking about, various different things. Pino's looking up how to build a snowman. Laguna's like, I'm going to hate this place. It's fucking cold.
Which, by the way, Kumar is very judgmental about Pino not knowing how to make a snowman. And it's like, she's never done it before because she is A, a child, and B, a robot.
Also, see, they haven't run into any snow planets. Where else are they going to do this? Yeah.
They've run into every other environmental planet, but never snow. So, fuck off.
Yeah. They land on the planet that Rebecca's mom is at. It's just going to be our main character group that basically show up, and they're on this planet, and they see this enormous tower of clocks. There's all these different clocks, and they're all kind of set to different times. And then somebody shows up, Nick. Someone we're apparently supposed to recognize. When this person showed up, I was like, I've never seen this. But immediately, Happy's like, have we met before? And it's Feather, Nick, of the Eration 6 of the Stellar. She works specifically with Rachel, the director of operations in the Yukino Cosmos.
Yeah, her hair is styled differently, and she doesn't have like the machine stuff around her face, so she looks entirely differently as far as hero character designs are concerned.
Well, it doesn't help that we're introduced to her with her eyes closed, which is her really only discernible feature.
Right.
So there is a level of that. They talk about how like Shiki's like, oh, we met you in Blue Guard. She's like, it's relevant to me. I don't know anything that existed in your worlds, but because of my special power, I am able to kind of pick out when people become anomalies or whatever in this world. So there is that. She also notes that this tower, all these clocks are records of the points in various different worlds where history has diverged. And Rebecca notices one clock is stopped at the day that Shiki died. And that's like, ooh. So they go over, they meet up with Rebecca and Connor. The main takeaway from this conversation is that Connor cannot fly a ship anymore, but he can fuck. He fucks real good and real hard. He basically says that he has to be called the captain of the night. And I was like, this is legitimately kind of a funny joke that he's like, can't sail a ship anymore, but I use that time to plow your hot ass mom.
It is probably the most intentionally funny that Eden Zero has been in a long time. Yes.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, is it true that Eden's 1 is heading this way? And it's like, yeah, but not exactly. They're looking for the door to Mother. And Shiki's like, the door to Mother? Where's that? It's in this cosmos.
Oh, it's right here.
Yeah, it's actually right here. It's less of a door. It's basically like a mark to a path. And it kind of gives you like wayward signs, whatever. Loads of adventurers have set out from here to find Mother before. But we haven't had a single report from anyone ever finding her. And they're like, wait, does that mean Eden's 1 is going to head straight here? And they're like, no, actually, this planet is like one of 7,000 asteroids. If you never knew which one it is, it would take forever to get here, blah, 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 blah. There's a reason they're here and Eden's 1 isn't yet. They take the ether that everyone's been gathering from all the different worlds, and the machine starts moving, basically. And she's like, all right, well, it's going to take time to do that. Why don't you guys enjoy the bats here? It's like, sure, of course. Nick, it's plot relevant that they enjoy the bats here.
We just got done with the beach chapter. We just...
Fair enough. Shiki is like, sorry, we're not really in a mood to relax. And Yukino's like, well, don't say that. What if I tell you secrets about the Eden Zero inside of our hot spring? So we cut over.
That's right. We're doing an info dump while they're taking a bath. And
yeah. the first bit of information we get is that the Church of St. Fire Knox is not a church anymore. That shit's done, all right? It's just a name now at this point. But before all that happened, back when she lived in her home country of Knox, where Rebecca was born, that's where she met Ziggy. And I do kind of also enjoy this joke that Shiki and Wise are on the other side, and they're like, we can't hear you! Like, you said you were going to give us information, but it's not a mixed bag, so we can't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and this conversation is being held between there and either the Eden Zero or a building nearby. Because
I think that everyone's comms are just hooked up, so the Eden
Right.
Zero can also hear everything that's happening.
But not Shiki and Wise.
yeah, it doesn't really make a ton of sense, but it is rather funny. She explains that Ziggy visited here, the warm waters of time, and realized they had ether activating properties, or they had ether activating properties in them. So the crew is like, of the Zero is like, wait, is this why our spa has like was it made to resemble these this water? But the other note is that Hermit kind of picks up on it, is like, wait, weren't we there, the shining stars? And they're like, no, he was traveling alone at that point. And then we get another little tease. This is like a weird exposition, kind of back and forth. Because then Yukino's like, oh, Pino, sweetie, have you told him the secret of the four shining stars yet? And Pino's like, I don't really know what she's referring to, but there does appear to be something in my databanks that I can't access without further authorization. So there's another Pino secret to get. That Yukino's just like, it's not my secret to tell. It's a precious memory that belongs to Pino.
She can't remember it.
Yeah.
She can't remember it. Tell her. Like, fuck you.
Feather shoots up. She's like, wait, someone's approaching. How did they get so close without alerting my eyes of Venus? And then suddenly everyone stops. And Rebecca's like, hey, what the fuck's going on? Why are you frozen? What the fuck? And then she realizes that time has stopped. And we end the chapter as Rebecca looks out. Of course, she's naked. Why wouldn't she be? But there is a floating person behind her wearing like a cat suit. It's like, uh-oh, who could this be? How are they stopping time? Bum, 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 bum. Now, do remember, Nick, because this is a plot-relevant detail, Rebecca's time powers are at their strongest when she's naked.
Yeah, this is very important.
This was established as a detail of her power set.
Yep. So...
I will say this, because I feel like you're negative, and you're right to be, but this is probably the most I've enjoyed Eden Zero in, a year, because we're finally at content we haven't experienced also within the past, 2 years of this series.
I don't know if I believe that, given that we did just, be reintroduced to another character, and seemingly the only real reason that they're here is so that there is another naked body in the springs when everything freezes. So...
That is true. There's a small bit of me that's finally, we've escaped the stuff that we just did.
I don't know. It feels like there's a few characters that we haven't been reintroduced to yet, and that character is wearing a mask. So we'll see when the mask comes off.
That's true. This could show up, and then it's like, hey, it's me. One of the members of fucking Orc or whatever his name was from Forest. Remember me?
Or it's gonna be like, oh, it's me. Kana of Fairy Tail. That's right. All the characters of Fairy Tail are going to start being reintroduced in this timeline, too.
It's me, Gildarts. And everyone's like, you just mean Justice? He's like, no Gildarts. I'm a clone or something.
Yeah. Hey, Connor just randomly talking about how he's utterly useless. Except for banging his wife.
It's like right. I can't fly a ship, but I could fly your mom, if you know what I'm saying. Giggity, giggity, giggity.
I mean, we have sex all the time.
It's like, okay, thanks, Dad. Calm down.
Please stop. All right, now it's time for Akane-banashi. It's story 70, the Rakugoka Shinta Arakawa, and we get a color page for this, showing all the relevant characters for this little arc that's going on. Well, I say relevant, but the contestant number 4 in the contest is
Hey, whoa. It's pretty harsh, Nick.
Yeah.
I think that guy's going to win it all. I know he's mathematically eliminated twice over, but I think he still got it.
There he is. He's been thrown over the top rope. His feet have hit the floor. He's walking backstage, looking all sullen. I like his odds of winning.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot like when Maven got shit beat out of the Royal Rumble so bad that Jericho was like, "Hey, you never got eliminated. I'm going to give you a title shot as a joke." And maybe that's what he gets. This does feel like what is that quote from where it's like, "We trained him wrong on purpose as a joke."
That's from Kung Pao, I believe.
Yeah.
My face to your knee style. So Akane has taken the stage. She, of course, in this moment has, is connected to her father and is thinking a lot about him, but she's thinking to herself, like, why am I thinking about this particular moment? The moment where Shinto was just obsessed with, like, I've got to be a Shinichi or I can't make my family happy. And, she thinks about a lot of the disappointment and a lot of the sadness that she did experience while he was trying to be a rakugoka, imparting to his wife, Akane's mom, that only 8 people came to his solo event. He just, wasn't very popular. And, just all these times where he was, like, very agitated thinking about it. And Akane thinks to herself, like, I love Dad's art, and I want people to recognize its greatness. And yet, but she gets back into the story, which, of course, is also about a husband and a wife. And as she gets into it, the wife leaves to go and buy some food for her husband, who had been complaining about, like, oh, there's nothing to eat while he's drunk and stuff. And he complains about her leaving, too, because he's being left on his own, which is understandable. So, definitely got to win Padawan Pigtail guy. Says, like, she feels kind of low energy to me. Guess that she's, like, given up on winning. But Kaichi says, I wouldn't be so sure of that. It's only curtains when you've truly given up. And the guy's like, I mean, but can't you see the outcome already? Like, look, the judges are going to like her, I'm sure. But she hasn't had a big reaction from the audience. And after this point in changing time, the story, the only thing that's left is that the husband, reveals his love for his wife. And then you cap it off with a little bit more foolishness. That's it. So there's not going to be anything left to grab the crowd. So there's nothing that'll increase her points for the in audience vote. There's nothing that's going to increase her points for the streaming vote. Hikaru's won. That's it. She doesn't have the tiniest chance of winning. And we get back into Akane's head, and she thinks, like, I can't waver. You decided to use your dad's art and win in your own way. And she mimics the little agitated, like, scratching the neck thing that her dad would do when he was really worried about stuff. As she does so, she has a conversation in her mind palace, this internal flash where the present Akane is confronted in what looks like a park by the past Akane at the beginning of the series. And the past Akane says, what's wrong? Why do you look so worried? Should I guess? It's because you're not sure anymore, right? You've met all these different people since you became a Rakugoka. You've come face to face with the strength of their feelings. And you felt that they were different from our dad. And you realized something after you had that heart-to-heart with Dad's nin, didn't you? The Rakugoka Shinta Arakawa, and the present Akane says this, was a weak person. And she looks kind of sad about this.
Your dad rules!
Past Akane looks really sad about this. And then there's a really sad thought, which is, but Rakugo stories are your friends. Does that mean that weak people can't have friends? Do Rakugoka have to be strong? And then Akane remembers a conversation that she had as a kid with Shigema, where he was telling her something about Rakugo. In the story that Akane is telling, the husband kind of like, gets kind of upset with his wife and is like, all right, fine, go buy me some food then. Now that she's gone, what's her problem anyway? Why did she wait around all night for an old drunk like me to come home? And he just kind of realizes that, oh man, you know, I love the hell out of her. I'm really lucky that she's in my life, basically. And we have that moment, and then, hey, to cap things off for a bit, you know, his wife comes back in, and he yells at her again, "God, where's the food?" And hey, and you know, cap off the very sincere note with another lighthearted joke about it. And so Akane has had this realization about her father and kind of come to terms with the fact that even though she idolized him as a kid, he was weak, the way that Isho Arakawa had said when they had that one-on-one conversation before. And one second, because my reader's not working right now.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll get it going out here. Or is it just not working? This might be a problem. It's not loading for me, either way.
Everything seems to be working on my end.
The chapter's not loading for me, either on my phone or on my browser. So this is a bad.
Alright, well, I could take over in the meantime. Yeah, she realizes that her dad has, or she's like, I've lost sight of his true art. You know, my dad, he's not as strong as them. She's thinking of, you know, Master Urara and, what is his name? Arakawa, but there's like 12 Arakawas, so I don't think I can call it that.
Her master is Shiguma. And then there's Isho Arakawa, the bastard one.
Yeah. So she's at least thinking of all that, and she's like, but that's exactly why the people in my dad's stories always feel so warm and kind. And as it's going on, she's kind of wrapping up the story as the husband's like, I'm a stubborn man, Avito. I put up a front to hide my feelings, but the truth is, I'm full of gratitude to my wife. I'd be nothing without her. And she's outright channeling her dad in that moment. We literally see that lines being sort of written there. I don't know if this is specifically supposed to be a quote that her dad said at some point, but it does seem like that's what she's going for. And she says, that's it. I realize now that it was my dad's weakness I loved. And we get like sort of like a full page, almost like page and a half kind of spread of her kind of finishing the story of the husband being like, you are the sun in my sky. And it's very intimately lit, you know, like this is a grand sort of moment.
And then the husband realizes that the wife has overheard everything and is waiting outside the door. What are you doing here? Go get my food! And yeah, we close things out with a little monologue from Shiguma's perspective, because he's been watching the stream this whole time. And he says, rakugo stories aren't tales of heroism. They're full of proud men, drunks, lechers, and fools. They tell tales of ordinary people who are far from perfect, failing in various ways. And in stories like that, even weakness can be a weapon. It's fine to be weak. It's just another flavor of the human experience. And I think the idea is that he can see it, but maybe it's just Akane feeling it, but there's an image of Shinta with his hand on her shoulder, having helped her out. And Maikeru is watching this from, watching Akane perform the story that he has taught her, and he says he figured it out. So, this is a beautiful chapter. It's such a big thing where it really feels like, oh man, Akane kind of became an adult in this one chapter.
There's a lot of growing up in this. This is a single sequence here.
Realizing that, this thing that she'd been holding on to that had been driving her entire rakugo career was kind of partially informed by childish naivete and idolization of her parent, and not realizing that, hey, her dad was not the greatest rakugoka. He was, he kind of didn't have what it took compared to all the people that she's met so far in order to break it in. There's a reason why he didn't make it. And even so, that's okay. She's realizing like he doesn't have to be perfect for him to be my dad, who I love. And it's an incredibly mature thing. It's an incredibly kind of uncomfortable thing in some ways to witness that happen, come to that realization. But this is great. I wasn't really expecting this to be the direction the story took at this point, but it's definitely something that kind of needed to happen eventually for Akane's journey.
Yeah, I think this is a level that is interesting to explore. It is a way to kind of capture that element of her dad and her relationship. Well, I guess without giving too much away, we still haven't had these two characters actively talk to each other or anything like that.
Yep.
But it does feel like a way to explore her particular relationship with her dad's Rakugo. And I do really like she realized like he just wasn't a strong person like all these other, masters I've met. But I think that's why I liked his characters so much. There's like a tenderness to them. And it's going to be very curious because she found strength in this thing that her dad had, this very particular technique. But it's almost certainly not going to win her the competition because they kind of know that like it's going to be tough to like get a score that high.
Right.
Maybe it will, but like Shinto's or not Shinto. What's his name? Her dad. Yeah, Shinta. Shinta's style wasn't like extremely popular in certain fields. Like obviously, like her master really liked it. But I think there's still going to be like a level of like it may not go over super well. But at the same time, they've built up that 4-person event.
Yes.
So I can't imagine they're not going to show us that. So I'll be curious to see what they do. I mean, it would feel weird if she still won at this point.
I get you what you mean. And a way that might resolve that? It's a good old tie.
Yeah, it might be. It might just be something like a tie. And I do think that, and look, I'm going to try to be nice to Hikaru. I like to think that the lesson Hikaru should take from this, or Kari, is like, fuck, this bitch is still playing me on a fucking, like, she's playing, like, chess while I'm playing checkers. God damn it. Like, I'm not actually really competing with her. She's, like, processing way too much more.
Right. I can definitely see, like, even if Hikaru wins the competition outright, I can definitely still see her feeling like Akane is still ahead of her. Because in a regard, at least, she definitely is. But we will see. I'm sure that we probably won't have to sit around waiting for the scoring for much longer, because it's been like the next chapter after for the previous 3 ones. So we'll see.
They're going to fuck with us. They're going to be like, now to announce Akane's score, and then we'll time skip forward like a week or something like that. No one will talk about the results. They'll just go about their day. They're like, I see a new episode of Big Brother. It's like, that's weird. We're in Japan. Why are we talking about Big Brother? It's not really a popular thing here. Not really popular anywhere, really, I think. But
still gets made, though. Well, yeah, it's because it's dirt cheap.
Yeah, you don't have to really pay anybody for that. I'm like, well, now you're being... Suddenly someone knows a lot about this series you didn't think was so popular. I'm like, all right, I used to watch it a little bit back in the day.
It's just, it's just a matter of, like, manipulative editing and the fact that everyone is, kind of, like, pitted against one another, and they're kind of plied with drinks all the time, so they're drunk, and that gets emotional reactions. So you never watched the show, huh? No.
Yeah, I don't know. I watch Amazing Race. Like, again, another show... not really popular here. You couldn't name one Japanese reality show? Like, I don't know any. Just say
Iron Chef.
Yeah, they're like, damn. All right, he got us. This bitch knows what she's talking about.
All right.
Sucks you lost that competition, though. You even lost to the dude with the little braid decided to say, like, damn, that's a crazy cliffhanger at the end of the chapter.
All right, it's Blue Box time.
Blue Box!
Chapter 109, January 15. Hey, Taiki's woken up. It's birthday. He's 16 years old now. He has a really stupid kind of moment where he's like, I'm 16. I'm never going to catch up to Shinatsu-senpai, though. No, because she's older than you.
He's like, I guess at 16 years old, I should finally understand how time works. Huh. Interesting.
Well, I don't know. Einstein had this theory that if you shot off into space really, really fast, he goes outside to start his day and go to practice and stuff. Chinatsu's just like waiting for him, and he's like ah. But she says like, oh yeah, I was waiting for you because I figured you'd be coming out soon. Happy birthday. Aw, ain't that nice? And she says, oh, and I want to give you your present tonight, so make sure you come home really quickly so I can give it to you. I was kind of hoping that we could go out though, but Taiki points out that they've got practice to go to, so they can make time for another day. They can go somewhere then. And Chance is like, "You're right." She kind of kind of stops and she's staring at him, thinking about touching his hair. That trollop.
Oh, like this hussy.
But it is kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know that they want to try going out together and stuff. It's like, but they also want to like stay focused on their other goals, which is like they're trying to play this smart, which is like, I don't know. Don't restrain yourselves too much, guys, because
yeah,
you can't do that.
They're going a little hard in the paint, which is to say they're not being hard in this paint whatsoever. Yeah. Get a little hard in the paint.
You gotta be a little hard in the paint because we already know that Shinatsu is a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys got to be careful. If you keep on holding it in, she's gonna be holding your hand all over the place, and you got to be careful about that.
Yeah, she's gonna explode any moment. And she might touch your ear.
But she kind of like Chinatsu. There's a cute little moment where Chinatsu notices that Taiki has noticed the way that she's reacting, so she kind of gets upset and goes at him, and he just says like, "Oh, she's cute." And then Chinatsu goes, "Here's a happy birthday handshake," and Taiki says, "Is that a thing?" "It is now."
Fair enough.
Shake your girlfriend's hand, Taiki. But then his mom suddenly runs upstairs because she's looking for their stamp, and so they have to immediately be like, and Taiki, like, oh man, nearly got caught shaking hands with his secret girlfriend. Can't let that get caught.
Can't ever be seen shaking hands with one of my roommates. That would be, I mean, it would be strange, and it's just like, why are you shaking hands? But sir, he's acting like, oh my god, they almost caught us making out.
Like they shake hands. His mother comes upstairs and she's like, "Wait a minute, shaking hands? That's the Gen Z equivalent of a Mexican car wash."
Yeah, she's like, "I watched a documentary on this. I know that you freaks are really getting off to this. In my household, never."
I know why you have eggplant emojis. It's because you like eggplant so much.
You're trying to be healthy, you little freaks, for all that fucking you're gonna do.
I know that eggplants encourage high libidos. Yeah, anyway, they go to practice. Taiki gets to practice. Go. Gives him a present. It's fucking muscle building proteins. You fucking jocks.
Yeah, this is a moment where you're just like, I mean, it's nice that they're giving gifts. I feel like men often feel pressure to not give gifts and things like that. It's very sad. It's very cute that they're able to. But yes, it is very jockey that he's like, here you go, whey protein powder. Not even like a cool kind, just cocoa flavored whey protein powder.
Got this for about $2. Yeah.
Oh my god, I wish he got that for $2. You know how much fucking money whey protein costs?
Oh, that's how cheap it is my point.
Oh.
Ayame comes by and is like, "Oh, it's your birthday, huh?" She makes a reference to like the Japanese reading of the date, which is like, okay, cultural barrier on that joke. Oh well. But she also says like, "Hey, I would have gotten you something if I had known." And he's like, "I'm 16. And the only people who ever give me presents are Kyo and Hina. You don't have to worry about that." But then that gets to thinking about how Hina's always gotten him a gift, and she's like, "But she's not going to give me something this year because of the tension and the whole we're not dating thing and stuff." We get a little flashback to Hina actually like first learning when Taiki's birthday. It was Taiki's birthday, and she like runs off to the vending machine, gets him one chocolate for every year of his age, which is cute. And then he's kind of like lost in that thought for a second. And Haru comes by and he's like, "I heard today's your birthday." Here, gives him a protein drink. These fucking jocks.
Holy shit! It never ends.
Nishida says that his present for Taiki is the right to have a match against him. It's like, you cheap motherfucker. Shouldn't have even bothered to say anything. But then they start to, head off to practice. And, oh my gosh, Hina, the ninja move, sneaks up behind Taiki and reverse pickpockets him. And she puts some candy in his jacket pocket. And she's like, I completely forgot. I was at the convenience store and I saw these, so happy 3rd birthday. Taiki's like, "What do you mean 3rd?" And just got 3 candies from her. And she's like, "You get your 13 pieces short." And Hina's like, "Oh, I thought you were 3 years old," which is weird.
Done. He's done for. Leave school. You'll never be able to show your face again. You've been destroyed, melted, absolutely obliterated.
She walks away, and her friend's like, "Oh, you gave him a present," and Hina just says, "Yeah, time's passed. I'm totally over it." Maybe
we'll see how you feel when you find out he's dating Shinatsu.
Yeah, we'll see how lovely you are.
But I do like the idea that they could be friends. It's one of the pieces. Like, Blue Box has been really, really good recently, and it's been very fun and very, very cute. But I do miss just the like adorable friendship between Hina and Taiki.
Yeah, it does definitely feel like we've been in like, oh, it's happy mode. Look at the schmaltzy cute stuff between Shinatsu and Taiki. So we are kind of like focusing on them a little bit, which means it's the main like ongoing plot line that is left to talk about. That being, how does Hina feel about the fact that she has been basically fully rejected by Taiki? How's she dealing with that? Has just kind of like been faded away, and now it's just kind of like she's saying it's over, and it's like, I don't know, like it can be, sometimes it takes longer, yes, to be over something than you think it does. So, and Nishida says as he's looking at the candy, he's like, "Oh, she gives you a birthday present every year? What a good friend." And Taiki's like,
yeah. I guess so.
Has some of the candy, enjoys it. It's like, oh, it's nice.
He's like, wow, someone gave me something that was a fucking whey protein powder.
Oh man, sugar in this is so great. And so
he even comments on that. He's like, oh my god, these things are really sweet.
Yeah. Taiki goes home at the end of the practice and is thinking about Shinatsu, who's obviously already left, and he's thinking like, better not be some protein that she gives me. But then he thinks maybe it'll be a happy birthday.
Oh my god, these horny teens and their wild emotions. They're out of control, Nick. A hug? I mean, it is your birthday, but still. This is rather lewd.
Taiki, she's been your girlfriend for like 10 days. How dare you try and put that sort of pressure on her, even in your own mind, wanting her to put out and give you a hug.
Yeah, this is straight up Discord. We never learn Asumi lewd emotion. Lewd.
So yeah, Taiki B is like, oh no, my mind's in the gutter. There's no way it's that. Come on, dude. She's desperate to shake your hand. Then, oh no, gets a call from his mom. And his mom says, oh, Misaki, who went into labor, so we're going to be home late. It's a thing that has kind of like been established that like they're off visiting Taiki's aunt, who is pregnant, and like, oh man, we got to rush to the hospital. So that means that the situation is different than they had initially planned on. They're not going to be home until late. So she says, yeah, and I asked Shinatsu to take care of dinner, and we'll celebrate later. So Taiki's like, all right. So that means that until everyone gets home, my birthday celebration's gonna be just the two of us.
Wow.
Oh, and he comes into where Shinatsu is fully clothed and making food.
But she's wearing an apron, Nick. It's a fetish or something.
Yeah. It is a fetish, but she's wearing all the other clothes too, so maybe not.
Nick, what if you wore all the fetish clothes at once? Still fetish?
It would depend, I guess, on how you wore them. I imagine that depending on the combination and also the
Just
way you like them.
just like one of those people who like will wear like 60 t-shirts. So it just
Right.
gets like you can't even move. Like you're that's what I'm thinking of. Like you just keep throwing on different versions of fetish suits one over top of each other, and you start with the bulkiest thing. You start with like a fursuit or something like that. Something where you're like,
Not
damn,
not planned very well at all.
no, I could have coordinated this a lot. I'm gonna have to fit the spandex after this, the leather suit. Shit, that's gonna be rough.
Oh man. Yeah. So we are entering a very cliche romantic comedy setup. Like, oh, we're trying not to get caught, and the whole house is ourselves now. Oh my gosh. Uh, but given that we are at the level of them being embarrassed about holding hands, we'll see. Just so.
And I don't think it's gonna go quite that way, but it should still be a fun time. Nick, is there any way no, you know me. I love Cipher Academy. Is there any way we could condense this extraordinarily lengthy and verbose
It really
chapter?
is long. It's chapter 32. A sound mind is in a sound war. All right. We get everyone's there for the three-way match to decide the winners of the whole competition thing. The rules are it's a triangular game of tag. One class will hunt. Basically, class 1 hunts class 2, hunts class 3, hunts class 1. We get an explanation of this that involves animal tails, but it's honestly that easy to understand. The big thing is that in order to actually also incorporate code breaking into it, the captor has to succeed at breaking the code of the person presented by the person that they're trying to capture, and the captor will then give the tail back to their prey and escort them. But if they fail, then they give the tail back and have to report back to base because they failed to capture. They have to go back to base before they can try and capture someone again. The codes have to be based on their environments. And so that's the combination is it's physical, yes, but also it's based on being able to think on the fly and think of codes and also solve codes on the fly. The only representative of class C, Invalides Yunakiyu Guisu, points out that Iroha is, like actually athletic and a dancer and a male cheerleader and stuff. And it's like, I feel like this is unfair given that, he's going to try and make up for his lack of intelligence with stamina. So it's like, no, that's okay. They've got a handicap for this. Put a freaking ball and chain on his ankle.
It's so easy for them to do this. And I like that, like, no one else in his class is just like, I might have some concerns about like it makes sense that Aroa is just like them's the breaks. Someone has to be like, Aroa, you could also do this for other people. You can also argue your case.
There is notably, and doesn't really get brought up in the chapter, a combination for the lock. So he thinks that there may be at least an attempt to get out of it that way.
Yeah, there is a 1-star rating, and I do love that he's like. Wait, if you're talking about stamina, they have a fucking bear on their team.
And the bear just looks at everyone like a bear and then goes, "This is a costume. Why would there be a bear at school? Use common sense." And everyone's like, "Oh, sorry." And the bear says, "Apologies will not repair this matter. Reflect on your actions."
Yeah.
How dare you call me a bear?
Let's also recognize this character's excellent name of Kuoka Edishite.
Yeah, and it's not even spelled the way that you would think it would be. It's crazy. So everyone is assigned who they're going to chase and stuff like that, and then Invalides, who got Iroha stuck in the ball and chain, is me like, "Now, if you'll excuse me," and just backhand springs away. And the teacher is like, "Oh yeah, she's a gold medalist in kids gymnastics, so you could have probably argued for her to receive a handicap too." Yep.
Just a being like, "God damn it."
Yep. And Toshisai points out, like, hey, even though they're in an alliance, Class C has only got one member taking part in the battle. It's clear that she has been planning for this ever since the conference. So watch out for yourself. Butt pun number 1 of 6 for the day. This noble villainess's butt is still green. All right.
You're like, all right. We sometimes we gotta stretch for him.
Iroha and company go off to their base, and so they're like, all right, we gotta keep the strategy session brief. We got 3 hours. They're thinking about what they're going to do. We established that Nohime has a prosthetic eye to help her out in this competition, but they have to be careful about that because it is technically outside support, so they're going to be hush-hush about it. Anonymity requested also, I guess, did not wear her mask for the same reason. She would have been, like they would have argued that she's using air help, and also they're like, yeah. So I imagine that the enforcers of the test, who are Class F, the one class that is not, involved in this. Actually, no, that's not the case. The team that they knocked out
beat,
of the
basically, Team D or whatever.
D.
No, I think it was E. Right?
It is E. You're right. Yeah, Class E.
D is the dead class that we speak to the dead.
Right. So Class E are going to probably be really strict with them because they got knocked out of the competition by them, and so yeah. And if it comes down to it between being captured by the snakes who are going to try to capture us or the members of Team F in particular, I'd rather be disqualified and lose because Class F is the special mission class, the Cipher Academy Mass Torture Squad.
And I love that these motherfuckers are just walking through with fucking machetes and sights and axes. They're just like slash, slash, slash with their bag masks.
I'm sure that they're hiding in this very short grass.
Yeah. It's so disturbing. This is a good chapter. There's just so much to retain through it because so much of it is this explanation. It is essentially just they're playing 3-way tag, but they add codes to it to make it a little bit more actually thematically fitting to the series. But
there have been considerably more puzzling competitions in the series to this point. Yeah. So, yeah.
But there's a lot of fun. I like the Kuoka and Ishite part where it's just like, why is there a bear? And the bear's like, use common sense. Yeah, don't apologize. Reflect. I want you to work on yourself as a result of this. And I also do love the class, F lady, who just, she just starts somersaulting out of there. She's like, begin.
It's entirely unnecessary, but all right.
Yeah, after getting a fucking ball and chain hooked to a Roha. It's very good.
Yes. Okay. New Exorcist. Chapter 10. Training begins. It's the beach chapter. They're on the beach.
Finally, Nick, it's been oh my god, almost 2 months the series has been out, and we haven't had a beach chapter yet. It's wild. Crazy.
So Gakuro is on the beach with Suo and with Furuha? Something. So yep. And
who gives a shit
there? And he is pointedly not looking at anyone because, as it turns out, Quinn, Gakuro was traumatized as a 5th grader because
this kid is nothing but trauma.
He apparently was accused of staring at girls in swimsuits when he was in swim class, and people said, he's a dirty boy! So it's trauma. He's been traumatized by that.
Now he's just like, I can't possibly look at a girl in a swimsuit. I would relive that. And you're just like, fuck, man. Just a little cool. Just a sprinkle of something to make you seem like a cool person. This is it's one of those things you're like, I want to feel bad for you, but you're going to just be like, breasts and butts around me, can't look, everyone will laugh at me.
I'll get stuck looking at their busty brassiere areas.
Oh, and they're all wearing two pieces. Oh, the hell that has been bestowed upon me.
There is a very odd little moment where Suo notes that, Nue was right. Well, she doesn't call her Nue. Apparently, she knows her as Saya. She's the only one present who knows her by that name. But it's like, she was right. It's so easy to move around in a swimsuit. So I guess Suo, despite proposing that they go to the beach to do cleanup stuff, has
show
never
up
worn a
fucking,
swimsuit before.
Yeah. Well, not that she's never worn a swimsuit before. Well, no. The idea is like, I guess she was planning to go in her like combat attire or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's such a silly thing where like, wow, it really is easy to just kick and move around while you're wearing a swimsuit. Like, that's not generally, whatever. Go for it.
And meanwhile, Nua is just thinking to herself, like, yes, now Gakuro will see her butt some more.
Just like, my machinations are deep at work. He'll never be able to avoid all of the breasts.
If I just make his harem as large as possible, eventually
I'll never have to fuck him. That's every character's goal. If I get enough chicks around this guy, I will never have to have sex with him.
This is actually... So I think I may have mentioned this before at some point, but in the sequel to Love Ru, one of the side characters of the first series, Momo, who is the main girl Lala's younger sister, her big plan, because she also falls in love with Rito, the boring generic protagonist, she realizes like, well, Rito is super in love with both my sister and with his, his childhood friend Haruna. So there's no room for someone like me at this point to win his heart. But if I get the harem ending, then there'll be a place for me inside that harem. So I've got to get him to want to have all the ladies. I feel like if I just have him fall in love with all these girls, then he won't fall in love with me is actually a better plan.
Yeah, it's just like, if I hook him up with all these other ladies, there'll never be an opportunity for us to get involved.
Forget about me. So we get a flashback to Gakuro having a conversation, a strategy meeting with Nue. And she's like, oh, they're going to wear swimsuits. And Nue's like, listen.
Oh my God. What a fucking nerd. This is what he's asking. He's like, are they going to be wearing swimsuits? Like, why would they be wearing swimsuits at the beach? Gakuro, sweetie, they 100% will not be wearing swimsuits.
It's not like I went behind your back and said to Suo, you should wear a bikini while you go to the beach.
And look, I'm going to assure you, I am so confident no one else at this beach, not even the people above, nobody at this beach are going to be wearing swimsuits. It's just not fashionable anymore. It would be a weird thing to do, Gakuro. So you won't have to worry about looking at anyone's butts or boobs. Don't you worry about it.
But she brings up like, hey, remember, there is like alleged plot reasons that we're doing this. You've got to get stronger so that you can, win your match against Shiroha. And the way to do that is to beat more spirits. You've got to at least be strong enough to destroy her Shikigami in order to beat her. So you've got to beat probably like 300 spirits in the next 2 days.
Wow.
That seems like a lot.
That's a lot of spirits. Like, accounting for like defeating one taking like 5 minutes or something like that. You're like, oh, shit. Do you have time to take a shit? Like, what's gonna go?
That would take 15 hours to do that. So
it's a lot.
Yeah. Well,
and that's also assuming that you're on that strict schedule. Every 5 minutes, boom.
It would be 12 an hour, so it would actually be 60 is. Oh my god! Wow. So it'd be 5 to get 60, so it would be 30 hours.
30? Wow, it's already increasing. And again, he has to keep to that schedule. He's got to stick to it. But this might be some Dynasty Warrior shit where he just rolls up and there's like 60 in a row. And he just spins his sword and he's like, ah, shit, I'm almost done.
Yeah, and then she actually does go on to claim those girls won't wear swimsuits. I'm 100% certain they won't wear swimsuits. She has literally told Suo to go and wear swimsuits. Yeah, and then for some reason, Suo and Shiroha are leaning in towards him when he comes back to the president. It's like, can you move along and finish giving us your thoughts on our swimsuits? Why are you asking?
What is this world where
what
it's
is
just
happening?
Like, hey, we've cornered. I mean, I guess that we are in this world where every character is like almost pretending to be interested in this guy. So in that way, there is this thing of just like, hey, what do you think of our swimsuits? But there is like a level of like, What is this conversation? What kind of unnatural conversation were we having?
Yep. So Gakuro is like, I've got to find somewhere to look that isn't at their booth.
I have to bury my head in the sand. I'll eat crabs for the rest of my life.
Specifically crabs.
I'll never lift my head out of this sand. That way I'll never be exposed to the indecency of a two-piece.
Oh no, more two pieces!
Bikinis!
There are more people from security, from the Shinigami Corps, basically, who show up. They are led by Koga, who is a short girl, who honestly has a beach outfit that I think is very fashionable. I like her. I like her overall look. She's got like coordinated like swimsuit along with like these with like, it's not just like sandals, but there's also like random sashes around her legs. Anyway, they are indeed all wearing two pieces, and so they're all there, and it's like, oh wow, a boy's here. Yes, a boy is here. You are correct. What about it? And so immediately Gakuro gets accused of staring at them because that's important. And so he's like, oh no, my trauma! I'm being accused of looking at women! No!
I've never once stared at a woman inappropriately!
Yeah, so one of the girls, who is, I think, a bit older than Gakuro, her name is, what is her name? Sujita. Bunhead Girl. So Bunhead Girl is like, hey, what's your name? He's like, it's a Gakuro Yashima! And she laughs at him, and is like, all right, sure. And immediately, like everyone thinks he's a loser and stuff, and they're like, all right, and they go and they fight some spirits and stuff, and then they kind of try and turn Gakuro into their fucking gopher. Yeah, so yeah. And then they turn to Shiroha and are like, yeah, it's fun to have a guy like freaking bullying people and having them like do your shit for you and stuff. But then Shiroha doesn't say anything in response. She's like, why aren't you talking, you dumb? It's like, all right, maybe she's just like fucking, I don't know. But Koga like smacks her across the face and is like, sorry, she's not right in the head. All right. All right.
Okay, I don't really understand what's happening, but go off, Queen.
Then she says, like, you didn't get hit on by strangers, did you? And Bunhead Girl is like, there's no way she would. She'd need to be likable first. Yes.
Damn.
Because when people go on the beach and approach girls in swimsuits, it is because they think that they're likable. Yes.
It's very interesting that you would... I understand why they needed to, based on the end of this chapter being like, we're going to get involved in a team competition. But it's very interesting you would introduce, like, 3 new characters at this point, and not, like in a single chapter, because it's like, how am I supposed to remember which one of these are which?
So Koga and Bunhead Girl kind of, like, are still bickering and stuff because she keeps on insulting Shiroha. And then she's like, actually... I don't think the thing that you thought about Gakuro, because he's in the current predicament that he needs to change, and if he doesn't, then he can't survive. And Butthead Girl's like, all right, that was a really weird lag time in your response. But then she says, you only mess with people to make yourself feel better when you're bored. So I don't really feel any need to talk to you because you're pathetic. All right. So she's dead. No coming back from that. But then Bunhead Girl is like, oh, I'm going to fight her. Let me fight her. I'm going to kick her ass for insulting me. And Gakuro is like, please don't fight. And gets between them. And his hand immediately goes to Bunhead Girl's chest.
How?
Just right on it.
How did he interfere? Because he's not trying to. I don't know why his arms are like extended. I guess he's just trying to separate a fight that's not happening. But like clearly they weren't about to, like they were about to be in a fight if he didn't intervene. But, like, his hand for whatever her name is, Sujita, is nowhere near her. So, like, it almost feels like...
Oh, Shiroha.
Sorry, Shiroha. It almost felt like he was attempting to go for this. Like, that's, like, I'm like, how is... Like, this is a colossal misstep on your hat, buddy.
I don't like looking at girls in swimsuits because I'll be accused of being a pervert, but I will touch them with no regard for that. And immediately, of course, like, you know, there's a moment where the bunhead girl is just so shocked that she's like, "What are you doing?" But then she sees the Gakuro is freaking out, so she instead goes, "Ah, you touched my boobs, you pervert! You dirty boy!" So I guess that she's like bullying him and is not actually bothered about the fact that, you know, a guy did just touch her on the boob. It's like,
I mean,
all right,
you can
whatever.
Understand to a certain extent that it's just it was an unintentional move, and you're just like, what are you doing? And then when you see it, like, you're like, oh, you get a little Nagatoro, and you're just like, ooh, you're sensitive to this. I'm gonna bully you. But like, it starts off really rough and then gets a lot more light and teasing as it goes. But at the start, it's definitely like a humiliation fetish thing.
Yes. We get a single panel that is, quote, a montage of increasing amounts of teasing, some of which I don't really get what the teasing is. Like, there's a few that are obvious. Like, for whatever reason, Koga decides to fucking just stand on him.
Well, it's not. I think he just fell in the water.
Oh, no. Oh, God, it's such a confusing sequence. So, Bunhead Girl trips him, and he falls near Koga, and pins her to the ground by accident, I think? It's very hard to follow. There's a lot crammed into this.
I thought it was that he fell to the ground and then was looking up.
Maybe?
I have no idea.
Right.
I have zero idea what's happening in most of these shots.
Anyway, he's super traumatized now. It's bad. Now it's time for the cheating competition!
I do love that it ends with the panel, because I do relate to this aspect of Gakuro's character a lot, where he's just sitting in a corner going, I'm sorry, just traumatized by this shit. That is a situation I have found myself in a great many times in my life. Not because of the beach-related bullying, but just in relation to like, oh, I've offended everyone around me with my awful existence.
So it's supposed to be a 3-on-3 match with Suo and Shiroha and Gakuro against the 3 girls. But, quote-unquote, Suo Senpai is on duty over there, so it's just 2 versus 3. Yeah, all right, sure. And she demands that the losers have to kneel down Dogeza style before the victors. But anyway, we'd win because, you know, you suck so much, Gakuro.
We're also choosing to intentionally play 3-on-2 instead of just having one of our team members sit out and making it even.
Yeah, just like a bunch of assholes. So they start the competition, but Gakuro just continues to, you know, slouch in the corner. So Fujino comes over to him and is like, "Why? Come on, aren't you coming? You're here as part of Nue's training, right?" And Gakuro is like, "Long ago, I was called a dirty boy, and my trauma surfaced after that."
I do like we know we have to. It's this character we do, but I do love to just be like, long ago, people called me a person. She's like, what's happening?
What is happening? Why are you talking like
I didn't ask you a question to prompt this, did I?
So it turns out that the thing that made people accuse him of being a pervert was that when he was in swim class, he thought that a girl was drowning, so he just jumped into action and tried to save her, and was like, "I'll get you to safety!" And the girl was just like, "No, I was just practicing swimming on my back." And so people were like, "You did something dirty, you a girl! You're a dirty boy!" It's like, oh, he was just trying to help someone.
Yeah. It continues this pattern where you're like, oh, that seems like that should be an admirable thing to Gakuro. On the other hand, it is extremely weird of you to just be like, this person in the pool must be drowning.
No one else is reacting to this in the swim class. I have to take action.
And then this bystander girl is just like, what? No, I was doing a backstroke. What are you talking about? Oh. Did I say help? Did I do anything to make you think that I needed help?
Oh, man. So Gakuro gets through his very painful backstory, and then
he's like, "You don't understand the turmoil I've suffered as a result of that day."
And she says, "Was it really that painful?" And he's like, "I can't get rid of the feeling of my body stiffening up." And so Fujino just sits down next to him and is like, "All right." And then she puts her forehead to his in a little tunk, and she says, "Look at me." He's like, "No!" And she says, "Look, you can't erase your trauma or overcome it, but even if you can't erase it, you can still keep moving forward. At the cafe, you declared that you would beat me, and I won't permit you to stop moving just because of some pain.
Just because of some titties around this place.
Look at my titties!"
It's pretty much kind of what it's getting at. Quite literally at one point.
So she's like, after a bit of this, Gakuro's like, "She's right. I have to stare at Fujino's half-naked body in order to defeat her!
It's the only way!"
So he looks at her, and then after about 0.2 seconds, his eyes are immediately drawn
Oh my god, your rack's incredible, ma'am!
I understand the impulse. She is leaning in such a position that, yes, your eyes are kind of drawn to them if you were in that position. But then so he immediately goes, "Ah!" And then she's like, "Wow, you are dirty." No! But then Fujio's like, "Look, come on, can you get up and move now?" It's like, "Yes! Thank you for making me stare at your half-naked body. It was hard for me, but I appreciate the effort."
I finally feel woken up and stronger. I'm ready to go beat those chicks at volleyball.
And so they go off to go and do the thing. That's the chapter. What a weird chapter, honestly.
I have two thoughts on this chapter. So the first was I was really, really worried that the art in this chapter is going to be bad because I've kind of talked about like proportions in this series being really rough before. But I thought for the most part it was okay. It's not great or anything like that, but I was like, the fears were not founded, it turns out. But there's like a depressing thought I realized. We're about to talk about Tenmaku Cinema. Tenmaku Cinema is almost certainly done for. It is ranking the bottom 5.
And this one isn't.
Yeah, this one, we're existing in a world where Tenmaku Cinema is almost certainly going to be gone in like the next couple months, maybe. We just had a group of series, so I think we'll get a little bit of time.
Right.
But unless something wild happens, it's almost certainly going to be gone. But meanwhile, News Exorcist, it's doing great. Like, it's not doing amazing. This isn't blowing anyone's mind. But this series is almost certainly going to last longer than Tenmaku Cinema, and that is devastating to my soul.
It was pointed out on Twitter, on our Discord server, that the series trended on Japanese Twitter after this chapter came out. Which, look, it's the big beach chapter, so yes, thirsty people are going to be thirsty. But publicity is publicity when you're a new manga and you need attention and you need readers. So that can only be taken as a good sign for this. Will it be enough of a good sign? I don't know. Thirsty people couldn't save Red Hood, but we'll see.
That's because there's a lot of muscle boobs, though, and people were intimidated by them. They were like, whoa, look at all those boob squats they're doing. I can't compete with that. I can't read this.
Oh man, it's just that
I have a Bible in my house. I can't read this.
All right, now to get back to my 12-hour anal sex porn-a-thon.
Whoa! Wow! That's
for the Lord.
For Jesus.
Oh.
The porn-a-thon for the big guy.
It's all for you, big man. It's all for you.
Same for you, Jay Dizzle.
All right, now on to part 20 of 57 of anal marathon girls 26. That's right. It's a 57-part series of part 26 of this series.
Wow. There's so much rich lore to Anal Guzzlers 27 or whatever it's called. I'm
No, come on, go in. Anal marathon. You're thinking of the subset.
Oh, I'm thinking about it's Hobbs and Shaw like spin-off franchise. After a couple characters got so big in Anal Marathoners, they had to splinter them off into its own franchise.
For some reason, Ludacris is a recurring cast member in that series too.
I mean, why? If you could get him, why wouldn't you use him?
he just shows up and talks about like, oh, look at me starring in this film.
He's like, wow, they sure are marathoning those anals. Someone's like, the line doesn't really work. He's like, you paid me to read one line and I read it. I'm out. They're like, hey, should we cut this scene from the movie? No, leave it in. The camera panned to the director. He's like, leave it in. It's all gold.
All right. Scene 14 of Tenmaku Cinema, Himeki's summer vacation. We open very briefly with Himeki finishing up a day of shooting at her job. And people are observing like, oh, you seem like you're kind of like more mellow. Is it because you like made a friend? Oh yeah, that boy Shinichi, right? And she says, I'm not sure if we're friends exactly. I need to ask him to make sure. And the director is like, I mean, I don't think that's how friendship works. But she gets going because, of course, she has her other movie to work on with everyone. They're shooting some scenes at Akitsu's house because his family has a big old-style house that is perfect for Nagisa's home for their purposes. And there's a couple cute moments, like the fact that the other boys are distracting Akitsu's mother because she is a gossip hound. So if the famous actress Himeki Kurogumi visit her home, it would get out to everyone. So they can't let that happen. But meanwhile, his grandfather is going to have a part in the movie, and there's a cute moment there where like Hajime is instructing him during line reads and stuff, and he goes through and it starts off okay, but then he's like, "Shy girl, that one." But that all changed on that day. It just gets really, really, really dramatic and into it and stuff. And it's just an observation of like, sometimes amateur actors like overact instead of playing a scene naturally because they get nervous or whatever. They start shooting some scenes because it's supposed to be, hey, it's Nagisa's room. They go into a room and it's like, all right, here we go. They shoot a scene. And I do love the page turn on this because it starts off like it's a shot of Nagisa's feet as a skirt drops down around her feet, and then it pans back and Himeki is wearing fucking rolled up sweatpants, fully clothed, and just dropped the skirt because she didn't actually have to get undressed. And she's like, I mean, I can take it again if you guys want. All the boys are just like, it's fine. It's fine.
It's good. All turning away.
So things are going pretty well overall with the shoot. Hajime has a conversation with Tenmaku about stuff and how it's like, oh, it's a really controlled environment versus all the guerrilla filmmaking that we've been having to do and stuff. But then Tenmaku points out to him like, well, you're saying everything's going smoothly and stuff, but that might be kind of deceptive. And so Hajime was what you're talking about, and then he pans out and it's like, oh, no longer just doing like tight shots with the camera, but doing a wide shot of the room, and he realizes, oh, this room doesn't like feel lived in because this is just like a spare room in the Akitsu household. It doesn't seem like Nagisa's actually uses this as her bedroom. So they have to start putting up stuff and redecorating, and it's like, oh shit, we're on a tight schedule and we have not set up the scene for this at all. So they're rushing around, throwing stuff around. Himeki is like taking stuff out of her bag and just like putting it around the place. Just like, it's fine, just like put it up, get it ready and stuff. And there's a note about like, hey, this is why set designers are so important. It's like, it's a nice little note. And load. Here we go. As they get through, Himeki's like, because Hajime apologizes to her, and he's like, I'm sorry that like I'm making an actress like you do this like grunt work, and she says, no, it's a lot of fun. And one of the boys, it's the fashion designer boy who's doing the costumes and stuff. I can't remember his name. He says it's kind of like we're prepping for a culture festival. But Bito's like, those are a pain because you're always getting bossed around and stuff. And then he's like, instructing Akitsu, like, no, you gotta do. It's more realistic if it's a little bit messy and stuff and everything. And Hajime says, like, yeah, and like, regardless of whether it's like a culture festival or it's making movies, yeah, it's fun as long as we're doing it with friends. And that gets to make his attention, of course. And then they do like a scene that's like a proper wide scene, and it's like, okay, a scene of like Nagisa hanging out in her room for part of the movie, and it's like, yeah, this is good now. Yeah. It feels like lived in and everything. So they wrap it up for the day. Himeki's got to rush off to another job, so she's got to go. And as she like Hajime like sees her out and notices like, you seem like you're in a good mood, and she says, I don't know if I am in particular, and he's like, all right, well, good luck, and Himeki just kind of gives him a little smile as she leaves. And there is narration that explains, like, her summer breaks were always filled with filming and with work. But this year seemed different from the previous ones. And she's just thinking about how Hajime said, like, yeah, we're doing it with friends. Because she's their friend now.
Mm-hmm.
She's got friends and she hasn't had them before. So yeah, to your point earlier, this series is definitely ending.
Yeah, it's brutal. But, like, it seems written in the stars at this point. We're really kind of marathoning our way through a couple things. But that said, this is also just a cute chapter about movie making and this idea of like indie movie making. They're like, hey, we got this good location, but it's sterile. It doesn't actually feel like this character would live here. So, I love everybody panicking and being like, I brought Squishmallow. Like, hey, books and manga work. Fuck it, yeah, just go grab them. And they're like, yeah, she borrowed those from her childhood friend. Like, these all work. Like, I just like everybody like working together and be like, all right, I got a good shot. Like, it's just they're good goobers. But yeah, sadly, I don't think this series is gonna stay around for the long haul. But it's okay. I'm gonna appreciate what we get.
It's Elusive Samurai, chapter 118. Student. People are riding around with Lord Akie, the new guy. They ride for a bit, talk about how much he would ride horses and travel long distances and stuff. What an impressive rider this guy is. Yep. And then we get to a conversation when they come to a river where he brings up that he will stand in your way to Tokyuki, someone you know well. And we cut over to the Ashikaga group, and Uesugi is speaking with Ienaga, who was known as, what was his fucking name? Whatever. Ashiba Magojiro, the young general who got a little bit of attention in that previous battle and was reacting to, everyone dying and stuff. He is now 17 years old, and he is a renowned commander and stuff. We see that Akie got ambushed by him, and even though his army had defeated Takauji's forces, he got held up by a young kid leading a group against him and stuff. So, yep. There's some talk of tactics. There is a comparison between Akie and Shiba and how they're so young and stuff, and how they'd be like university and high school aged. And meanwhile, Tokyuki is a little fucking kid still. Yep. There is another noble that they meet with. Natsu, meanwhile, is plotting. She is, in fact, still planning on betraying Tokyuki's group eventually. She's like, okay, I'm going to get like some good intel. I'll go back to the Tengu. I'll give them explosives now that I've gotten them from Genba. And she just thinks like the only available path for me is with the Ashikaga. It's the only thing that I really paid attention to in this entire chapter was just her brief little internal monologue where she establishes where her loyalties still lie as of this moment. Then Tokyuki just says like, all right, battle will be the test of Lord Akie's character. And Shinano, I knew my allies before battle, but now I shall know them through battle, and you will learn about them with me. Yep. So they're gonna go and do a battle. Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you where it's just like kind of not super interesting. I guess I just don't care about Lord Aki as like the mentor leader character they have to follow. His gimmick of like, you guys all suck, everyone sucks. It's like just not that funny in like a long-term scale, and I'm just not vibing with where the story is at this point.
If you're going to have a mentor character be mean and abusive, there has to be a certain charm to it. We went over this in like, in Blank Canvas, like how ridiculous, the sensei was in that, but also like how clear it was that he actually cared about people. And this guy's just kind of being a dick and then being like, but I shall be with you. And that's just kind of it.
Yeah, maybe we'll get that sometime soon. Just right now, it's definitely difficult to like get super interested. We're gonna move through real quick. Black Clover, page 365, 500 Years of Solitude. Last time, Sekirei sealed everybody's wounds. It does not heal their pain, but it does keep them from dying, basically. It's sealing their wounds and pain. It can't heal them, so like once it ends, they'll be in misery all over again. We cut over to Gauche and Gray, who are dying. Gauche straight up is missing a hand. It's gone. So looks like if she goes down, they're just straight up dead at this point.
It definitely seems like that. He nearly got cut in half.
Yeah.
It seemed like so.
So Sakurai, we get a couple characters who are gonna like fight against them. We have Charmy and Zora are doing some things, but Damnatio reveals like, you didn't know, but I am blessed with a second magic. You've probably never
Can you believe it?
You've never heard of this before, but I, in fact, have 2 different types of magic that I can use. I was blessed. So I have atmosphere magic as well. So we first see Charmy just get kind of like ripped to shreds. In like that way that like nothing seems like it happened. Blood just kind of like starts to shoot out of like their body in various different places. But the same thing happens to Zora, and it's just like, yeah, you basically are going to get torn apart by the atmosphere. It references the Supreme Devil Ball. I don't remember who this was. I think this is someone we may have met at some point. Was this... No, because that was the word magic guy, wasn't it?
I don't recall.
They fought during the Elf arc. I don't know. Regardless, he's like, all right, fuck this. I'm heading straight towards you guys. Sakurai has a little bit of a flashback thinking like, okay, so for 500 years after forbidden magic made me inhuman, I lived for only my mission. I basically spent all of my time as this bird. I never would have lasted if I was a human. And once I completed my mission, I was fine with dying because a world without Prince Lumiere meant nothing to me here. So I thought, and it cuts to Prince Lumiere. He's like, 500 years, really, Sakurai, thank you for all you've done. Be my guest, be my guest. He did the whole song and dance. I hope you'll find happiness with your companions in this new era, like I have in a very platonic relationship with Clogsworth. We are not gay.
Coupe de jour, you've got friends. And Master Lumiere, if you've got the time to do this song and dance number, don't you have time for like, can I like say something in response to you? No.
Starts to fade away immediately. I am dead now. You could have gotten the end of the song, but you had to be a little nosy. So she's just like, I didn't think I was ever going to find something that meant something to me, but she thinks about the black bowl, and she's like, or so I thought. And she's just seeing all of her friends get beat. We start seeing like Luck and Magma get like fucked up, and she's just like, no, these are my friends. Damnatio breaks into the room where they're doing the ritual. Like Vanessa turns, immediately gets fucked up. She's just set flying, bleeding in all different directions. And she's like, it's your fault. You're why I stayed alive. I have companions. Why I was able to regain my heart. So come back, as she thinks of Asta. If you're not here, we can't even get started. And she cries out for Asta. And Nashi was like, this is truly the end. And then we turn the page, and it feels like there's something that should have happened between the two. But Asta puts his hand on Sakurai's head and is like, thank you, guys. We're here. And Sakurai is like, oh, it's like seeing Lumiere as he walks forward. I think this is not, like, I know some people are annoyed. Like, it's a very typical thing to see, like, young girl cries out for young male hero to come save them, and then they do. I just wish Asta had looked cool in this one. Like, there could have been a moment, like an attack, like he shoots a fireball, it's coming straight at her, fucking throw a sword, block the attack, and then Asta comes through. Something like, just give me something dynamic instead of he walks through.
Have his big entrance be like his Damnatio is going like, this is the end. He's gonna swing his sword. Yeah, have like Asta's sword appear in front of Sakurai and block the attack, and then he comes up and gets with the comfort.
Something like that. It just felt very one note here. Like I truly just feel like I'm missing a page in between.
This also just kind of feels like it rings a little hollow to me because it's a lot of tell, don't show. We have not gotten a whole lot of Sakurai interacting with the Black Bulls since she became one. And so it does feel like hasn't really been a lead up to this moment where she talks things about like how important her friends are to her and how important Asta is to her. I know that technically as Nero, she's been around since the beginning. So yes, she does have like memories of all these people and stuff, but we haven't gotten to see the way that she interacts with them outside of being a burb and pecking at people and stuff. So I feel like if we had gotten a little bit more focus on previous adventures of how her dynamic with them was, then this would mean a little bit more. Even just the very, very, very background at this point note of, like Gray and Gauche being struck down together and like they're being like their bodies kind of like being entwined with each other. We've gotten to see enough of their character dynamic to this point to understand that there is like something big going on between them. And so there is like, a sense of meaning behind them being struck down together. There's, a sense of poetry and tragedy to that because we've gotten enough to appreciate it. Mm-hmm. With Sekre, it's just kind of like, Asta, I'm the one young girl present who has a connection to you, so I have to be the one to call out for you. And so it's just like, and she doesn't, he shows up. So it's a little bit disappointing in that sense. But I'm sure that if like you're really big into Black Clover, hey, you got to see the Black Bulls do their big time buying stand, and then Asta showed up, so you're probably hyped for it.
Yep. All right. Let's wrap it up, Nick. It's finally back. Oda has laser vision now.
Someone does. I mean, One Piece, Chapter 1087, Battleship Bags, featuring Ace on the cover, hanging out with capybaras.
That's all my favorite. I do love it.
All right. So, it's we start off in with for some reason people visiting the ship graveyard near a naval base, and there's big dents in some ships because they're battleship bags rather than punching bags. And we get some info dumping about like, oh yes, a much younger Vice Admiral Garp would do this, would just come out here to the ship graveyard and punch ships.
I think I'm supposed to know. This is like Strawberry or something like that, I think is his name.
Yeah.
It's felt like a character I should know, and I'm just like, shit, I'm losing my touch. There's only like 400 Marines. How can I not remember them all?
Yeah. So he says like, yeah, so, but there was also his apprentice, former Admiral Aokiji. The rule of battleship bags is that you can't use haki or powers. The strength of those heroes wasn't gifted at birth. I mean, all right, no, nor was anyone who ate a devil fruit, but okay. They had to eat that devil fruit. Meanwhile, on the pirate island full of lead, San Juan has had his ass kicked, and he is sunk to the bottom of the ocean. It's going to be a bad problem for him because who's going to get him out of there?
I was like, the heaviest guy, the giant, super big dude just fell in the ocean.
There's then a very amusing moment where I can't remember this guy's name, but he takes a big swig of beer and uses it to spit a fireball at Garp, who just holds up two guys in the way.
Vasco shot
shoots a fireball at Garp, and he just takes one step back and holds two guys in the way. Very casually. And then he starts chucking them at people.
Yeah, he's like, cool, I have a weapon now.
One of the pirates bemoans that if Blackbeard comes back and sees the town wrecked, then he's going to kill all of them. Interesting priorities in this moment. And they're like, shit, Garp's crazy. How are we going to handle him? You're not. He's going to kick your asses. So, but, their salvation has come, because who has made an alliance with Blackbeard but Aokiji, Garp's former apprentice, who can also punch ships? Yes, this power of his. Shonen Jump has not been very helpful to me today on my recapping. Please take over for a second, Quinn.
Yeah, so Aokiji shows up. He's like, hey, I can't let you leave. We find that there's like a small contingent of people, like it's like Garp, Kobe, Helumpo, and I don't remember this guy's name, Doll or something like that. They're the people who are kind of stuck on the island. And Garp basically just kind of speaks in death flags from now on.
Yeah.
Kind of his dialogue is...
I'm getting too old for this, and I'm on my way to retirement.
His dialogue is exclusively like, everybody get out of here, don't worry about me. Like, okay. But he sees like there's like a woman in trouble, and Kobe's like, oh, don't worry, I'll save you. Immediately everyone's like, don't, this is a trap. It is a trap. And he was about to get stabbed straight through, but instead Garp steps and instead gets impaled, and it's Shinryu who has been the Invisible Man. He's like, gotcha, I was invisible and I stabbed you with my sword.
Yep, that's exactly what he says. And Kobe's like, oh no, it's all my fault. And Garp's like, no, it wasn't. He was always coming after me. And yeah, a bunch of the pirates are like, Garp's weakened. Even we might be able to take him out now. You dumb motherfuckers. But of course, it's like, hey, Garp's got this huge, massive bounty on him. We'll get like 3 billion berries. And immediately Aokichi just says, get out of the way, you scrubs. But he says, like, you won't be able to kill Garp even if both his arms and legs are trussed up. So he gets ready to punch, and he's got some ice thrown around his fist. And we get a flashback to the first Battleship's Bags meeting, where Aokiji wanted Garp to be his master, and Garp said, an apprentice, don't tread on my freedom.
Uh-oh.
Teachings for losers.
Yeah, he is a cop, so it makes sense. It's starting to make sense.
Yep. And Aokiji's like, well, no, I'm ready for the next level, so take me on as apprentice. And of course, Garp didn't want anything from him, but he was presumably stubborn, so he was like, don't use hockey to punch this metal. And Aokiji's like, I can't even use hockey yet. Ow. And they would just, punch battleships and gradually wreck them more and more. And then eventually it got to a point where, they got older. And then Garp said to Aokiji, my grandson says he's going to be a pirate. I'm not standing for that. And Aokiji said, why do I care?
It is a very cool moment of, like, they don't talk. Like, this is supposed to represent, like, kind of a massive passage of time.
Yeah.
And I do like, quiet. My fucking son's becoming a revolutionary. Huh?
What?
Quiet. Oh, my fucking grandson wants to be a pirate. What the fuck is up with this?
Being an admiral sucks. Get us some tea. And then, hey, we get a cool moment then, because Aokiji says, you raised a formidable foe. And Garp says, consider yourself expelled, you dunce. And then they just punch each other for full force in the face.
So much so it starts breaking the island up.
Yeah, sends both of them flying. Now people really think that Garp is done because, Aokiji got knocked back too. But he's not surrounded by foes on top of that.
And also wasn't just stabbed with a huge sword.
And I don't remember who does this, but it's the guy with the Isle fruit.
Pizarro,
who says, allow me to demonstrate the power. He's going on like, oh, everyone's talking about Blackbeard. We want to make a name for ourselves too. Check it out. I can see it now. The great Vice Admiral Garp leads a team of promising troops in an attempted rescue of the naval hero Captain Kobe, but the dreaded powers of Avalo Pizarro, fourth ship captain of the Blackbeard pirates, bring them to a tragic end at Pirate Island. And he goes not for Garp, but for the ship that all the Marines are trying to get away on to crush it with a big earth hand thing. And Kobe starts to freak out, but Garp says, Kobe, don't panic. Justice will prevail. And that's our chapter.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, we jumped right back into something exciting. I like everything that's going on. As we exist at this point where Garp only speaks in I can't wait to retire tomorrow kind of thing. You're like, all right.
Kobe, there's something really important that I need to tell people.
I'm going to tell you right after we get off this island. You're like, all right, man, stop. Stop. But it's good. You know, it's exciting, tense stuff. A lot of characters are interacting. Stuff's going on. I truly don't know half these Marine characters. I know some of them have just been introduced, but yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. And hey, we kind of been thinking that Garp was going to die since, you know,
I mean,
it was indicated that he was going to go after Blackbeard. So
the moment he said he was doing that, you're like, oh, this is some real risky business. Late in the story, this is I'm going to be dying soon territory.
Right. So that's that. Guys, this has been Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you for listening to us. It's time to name everyone's favorites for this week. Quinn, hit me up with that.
Yes. So my favorite is going to be, I think my favorite series, although I really, really, really want to give it to Undead Unluck, I do think I have to give it to Akane-banashi because this is sort of like the long payoff for something we've been waiting for in this series for a long time, like her kind of addressing a bit of her relationship with her dad and her particular relationship to that rakugo. I do think I want to give it to Akane-banashi for that. However, I'm definitely giving my character of the week to Fang. This was like a great Fang chapter. We got to know a lot more about that guy, which I really, really enjoyed.
Well, this is going to be short. Same. On both counts, yes, both Undead Unluck and Akane-banashi felt like they were head and shoulders above the rest of the manga this week. There were definitely some good chapters otherwise, but those two were really, really good. And since the one with Fang was very much, since Undead Unluck was very much about Fang first and foremost, I feel comfortable doing that as well.
Yeah. The audience, by the way, agreed with us. Akane-banashi is chapter of the week. And then they picked Garp from One Piece as their character of the week, which makes a lot of sense as well.
All right. This is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap this week, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on twitch.tv/RoloT, where we record the show live every Wednesday, starting somewhere between 7:30 and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow us on social media and also join the Discord server if you want to know exactly when the show is going live. Discord server also has a wonderful community that has game nights, discussions about chapters as they come out, discussions of the series that we are currently recapping, which, as of right now, is Beauty and the Beast Girl. And also it's a place where you can find the Google Doc maintained by Ninja X3i, which keeps track of all sorts of statistics associated with the podcast, and also is a place to check out what series we've taken as recommendations, what series we might take as recommendations, and where you can make your own suggestions of that kind of thing. We also want to extend a special thanks to everyone who supports us on Patreon, patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap, where you can get some fun bonus stuff, including a discussion about Mortal Kombat that we did recently. The lore of Mortal Kombat, which is much deeper than I expected going into it, but it's definitely that.
There's more it could add it. They've just revealed some stuff about Mortal Kombat 1 that has been
my goodness.
Ooh.
So that's patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap if you want to give us a little bit of something to get some bonus content in return. We also want to thank Ninja X3i, as I said before, maintaining the Google Doc. Milo Jack Stills and Winston L. Cheddar created the opening sequence of the video version of Weekly Manga Recap. Check out all the video versions on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap. You can also see thumbnails on some of those videos done for us by Steve Man, whose artwork you can check out everywhere online by searching for Steve Man Art. Boobs there be where he draw thing. So, and I think that is going to do it for that. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I hope you had a good time. We talked about a lot of things. And now we're going to talk about ta-time off. Ta-ta. Like goodbye.
Ta-ta? What? Ta-ta time off? What the?
Yep.
Is my brain breaking right now? I'm confused all of a sudden. I don't know if I heard you right.
What's my favorite manga we talked about this year?
This year?
Actually, wait, no. I think it was late last year.
That's
right. Crossing time. No. Time to talk about crossing all the stuff to do time by.